She first discovered a cellar in her backyard and, out of curiosity, decided to go in, only to find an elderly man being held captive inside. Confused about who he was, she stepped closer to get a better look, but the man suddenly let out a terrifying scream before falling unconscious. Frightened, Annie ran out of the cellar. She began to suspect this had something to do with her late father. After all, before he died, he left her a videotape instructing her to search the backyard cellar, claiming it held a secret he had taken to the grave. That's how she ended up finding the imprisoned old man. Determined to learn his identity, Annie returned to the cellar, this time armed with a pistol. When she saw him sleeping, she quietly pressed ink onto his fingers and lifted his fingerprints onto paper. But as she was gathering her things, the man suddenly opened his eyes. Annie quickly covered her face and rushed out. Wanting to stay hidden, Annie wore a mask to conceal her identity. But to her shock, the man called her by name and revealed he knew everything about her family. Annie, even more puzzled now, asked him what connection he had to her father. The man said his name was Morgan and that he'd been locked in the cellar for decades. Annie pointed to the chains restraining him and warned that if he didn't tell the truth, she'd seal the cellar and leave him to rot. But Morgan wasn't intimidated. He simply asked for a proper meal to make up for years of hunger. Annie agreed, and she also sent his fingerprint to a court colleague, asking for a discreet investigation into the man's identity. Soon, she returned with a full meal. After eating, Morgan finally opened up. In his youth, he and Annie's father, Monroe, had been close friends. One night, after drinking together, they drove to a casino and accidentally hit and killed a young man along the way. Morgan wanted to call the police, but Monroe refused. He didn't want to ruin his future. Instead, he buried the body himself. Morgan, terrified, didn't help cover it up, but Monroe feared Morgan might betray him, so he knocked him out and locked him in the cellar, where he remained ever since. But Annie couldn't believe her upright, moral father would commit such a terrible crime. If Monroe really thought Morgan was a threat, why didn't he just kill him? Why leave behind such a dangerous secret?